Today I'm going to talk about making sure that your records can be verified. So we all know that wildlife conservation relies on data, knowing where particular species are, where they've been lost, and where they may potentially be at risk informs efforts to protect them from the impacts of development, changing landscape, and habitat loss. It can also help species-specific conservation efforts, knowing where species are thriving and where they may need some more support. So as citizen scientists, we can all contribute to that data by recording, making a record of the things that we observe around us when we're at home, when we're out and about. We're looking to build a real deep picture of all the biodiversity around us. So anything that you see in the wild should be recorded. And citizen science allows a whole load more people to be recording their observations rather than just having to rely on the experts, which of course would massively restrict the amount of data available if only the experts were able to or were having to go out in the field and look for what they can see. So citizen science allows all of us to be able to support those experts with that data. Now, to create a record from your observation, there's 4 pieces of information that's needed by the record centre. And we need to know who saw it, what was seen, where was it seen, and when did you see it? So, of course, the who, where, and when are really easy. You know those information. But when we're talking about verification comes to the what, sometimes it's really hard to know what you've seen and to make sure that it's an accurate record. So this is where verification comes in, because of course when the data actually gets to be used in science, it's really important that data is accurate. So the link between the citizen science and that data being in the official records is the verification process. So we've talked before about the actual process and the flow of the data, so I won't cover that again here, other than to say that what we're talking about is a record that's now in iRecord, whether it's been recorded there directly or whether it's gone through the iNaturalist process. Once it's in iRecord, this is where the verifiers will be looking at your record and looking to determine whether it's accurate, whether it's not accurate. You may get some feedback or if it's not accurate on what it should be, or it may be that there's not enough information for an expert to determine. So this is what we're going to look at now. How to ensure that your record can be verified. So the first thing to say is it's up to you to provide sufficient information to enable your record to be verified. So what we have to remember is that the verifiers are volunteers, just the same as us. Some will be looking at a specific species in a certain geographical area. Some will be tasked with verifying records on a national level. So what you have to remember is, although to us, each of our own records are really sort of crucial and every record does count, if you are a verifier and you've got thousands of records to look at, you may be limited on time. So it could be having to spend a lot of time on one record means that a whole load of other records don't get verified. So of course they're having to prioritize the time. So and we want to make it really easy for them, as straightforward as possible. So ideally, you want to take a photograph of what you see, and for the purposes of the other information needed, you may want to have your GPS enabled on your camera to ensure that you can have the location for the where of the record requirement. So if you can't see all of the features that you're looking for in a photo, then you can add some notes in the comments. Of course, if you can get a photo that shows the clear features, that's going to be the quickest and the easiest way for the verifier to understand what you've seen. But perhaps it may be something sort of moved really quick, or something's just moved out of the photo, and then it flew away if it was an insect, for example. So you can use comments to sort of back these up. If you are recording in iNaturalist, which of course then has to go through to iRecord, you can also upload audio, for example, a bird song, although that won't filter through to iRecord, so there's a chance that may not get verified. I would always suggest looking at other people's records if you are part of a iNaturalist community. This enables you to look at other people's records, either to use your own learning and things that you do know about, to help other people, to help them work out what they have seen, to get their identification accurate. Or it's also valuable for ourselves, because we're all guilty sometimes of taking a picture that's a little bit blurry, or doesn't really show what we think it shows, but because it's our picture and we've seen it in real life, we don't always see the same in the picture that somebody looking at it fresh would do. So I would say it's a good way of having that sort of valuable perspective of seeing something, how other people will see it. So we're going to look then at some specifics, and it's really important to make sure that you have an idea of what features are required for the species that you are recording. I'm fairly sure I'm not the only one, when I first recorded a plant, to think I could just sort of take a picture, not unlike the one on the left here, and think that a verifier, of course, that they would know. They would, if they're an expert, they will be able to identify it. But as we learn more about recording and what is needed to make an accurate determination, then we learn more about the features of each specific species. So different species will have different features. And again, don't let that put you off. Have a go, have the, sort of like have the feedback. You will have feedback on what features are needed to get an observation. And then you can either go back or wait until you see the species again, depending on whether it's something like a plant that will still be there, or whether it's something like an insect that will have flown off. So let's have a look then at some plants, and what sort of things that we might want to know, which is quite in depth. So as I mentioned on the left-hand picture, and which plant have we observed? What is our record for? Because of course in that picture we can see a whole load of different species. So this wouldn't enable a verifier to know, yes, that is the record. So you can either crop the picture to show the specific, or perhaps if it's kind of all overlapping, you could always draw a circle around it before uploading, to show that what you're actually what you're actually looking at and what you think is the observation. So of course, any specific features, we would like to take a nice clear close-up of the pictures, that's going to show the verifier exactly what we've seen. So we're looking at things like obviously we're looking at leaf structure and petal structure, close-ups of the flowers for all the information that the verifier needs to see. Things like do the petals overlap. In terms of leaves, we often need to know what the underside of the leaves look like. And we often need to know things like touch as well. Sometimes a stem, for example, may be hairy or the underside of a leaf. So anything like that, just have a good look at all of those things and just record as much detail as you can. As I say, try not to be put off with it by it or overwhelmed. Just have a go, and you just will learn. And by trying, and you will sort of learn. If you are very new to recording, if you join the iNaturalist community, we have a CAG Oxfordshire project, which is specifically designed for people that are new to recording and need to build the confidence in what they're doing. So then let's move on to some fungi, and again, completely different features, but this will have its whole own set of features. So in terms of this picture that we've got, and we've got a sort of a clear picture of the top of the fungi, but actually, do we need some scale for this? How big is it? Because we can't really tell that. We've got some leaves in the vicinity that may help us, but really a ruler next to it would be the ideal, so we know exactly the diameter of this cap. Sometimes if you think, oh, it'd be great to have a ruler, but you may just have come across this on a walk and you weren't intending to specifically make any records. So you may have, perhaps you might have something like a glove or use your hand in the picture, which you can sort of then measure later if you need an accurate measurement. So we do, in terms of fungi, when we start recording fungi, we do have the idea that we can just take that one picture that we've got here, and an expert will be able to tell what species it is. But actually, there's fungi are very complex. There's a lot of features that's needed to know. So we'd need to be having a photo to show what the underside is looking like, the gills and the stem. Is there a ring on the stem is also very important. Is there a smell to the fungi, and does it feel? Can you feel anything? If it's wet, is it sort of slimy? Just of course, a cautionary note that some fungi is toxic. So if you are touching the fungi, then please do wash your hands. And we obviously don't recommend tasting it. So we would also want to know, in terms of fungi, what habitat. So this is growing on grassland, but what trees are growing nearby. That's all important information for a verifier to know whether the identification that you think and that you've suggested is correct. So, as I mentioned earlier, all different species have different features that are important to determine the identification. If you're looking at something for the first time and you have no idea, sometimes just by thinking, well, what might be important, what does make this sort of species? You can photograph as much as possible, but if you look at some field guides or some online keys that sort of show the main features of a species, this will give you some indication. But as I say, there's no substitute for having a go and sort of learning as you go along. So let's have a look then at some, sort of common mistakes that we all take. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, is a great opportunity of looking at other people's records on iNaturalist. That's helping the community as well, helping those verifiers, but it also helps you to see from these perspectives, because of course, when these photos were taken, you sort of may think, well, actually, I know what that is, but if you were looking at these pictures, would you be able to know? So we've got things where the picture's just too blurry and we just can't distinguish. Not to say that blurry pictures never any help, because there are sort of certain things that are a little bit out of focus. So I'm not saying that you need to be sort of an expert photographer and have a perfectly clear picture, but we do need to be able to see in the picture, or the verifier needs to be able to see, or others need to see if they're to help you. The picture taken too far away, so of course then we can't see any of the features of these birds that are in this picture. In the third one from the left, we've got the angle of the picture is hiding the features, so we can't see, for example, the top of the wings, we can't see the beak, and we can't see the tail. So really from this photograph, we can't tell what species this is. And as I say, you may have seen it, and you may have seen it and it may have flown over you afterwards, so you know what species it is, but actually, unless you're an expert in that specific species, you do need to be able to show a verifier, or enable a verifier to see what you've seen. Again, sometimes the lighting can make a subject too dark to see the features, and again, sometimes that doesn't especially rule out some. In this one, for example, in the bird, we can still see the some of the sort of shape of the bird. So if we had other photos as well, we may still be able to have this record verified. And again, it's not to say you have to be some expert photographer, just that, to be aware. And again, this is something that comes with practice. There's a lot of information out there on how to, how to make sure that your photos aren't too dark. But again, have a go. You'll soon work out for yourself that the best way of getting the clearest pictures. So again, we've got some pictures to show or to illustrate what I'm trying to explain. So we've got on the top left here a good clear picture of some birds showing their features. Of course, if possible, we'd have them from different angles, but that's not always possible. And then in contrast, down on the bottom row, second from the left, and we've got a very blurry picture of something that looks like it was possibly a bird, and possibly a bat, maybe. But again, we can't tell from that picture, so a verifier won't be able to tell. The little hedgehog at the bottom. So as I mentioned before, the picture doesn't have to be perfect. So this is clearly, it's a blurry picture. It's not a great picture, but it is sufficient that you can see that it's a hedgehog. So again, it's going to be dependent on species. So I don't want to put anyone off that's, sort of got a picture and thinks, oh, this isn't a great photo, I'm not going to record this. It's just about being able to see what the record is. And again, we've got the foxes at the top. That's taken on night vision. But we can make out that they're sort of foxes. On the birds on the feeder, we've got a few species there. So if I was uploading that record, I'd be looking to circle the species that are specific, or you may want to crop them. But when they're all mixed up like that, sometimes it's sort of difficult to do a clear crop, or sometimes cropping pixelates the picture if, like me, you're not very technical. So just putting a circle around it just to highlight to the verifier this is what I'm talking about. And again, we've got a clear picture here of a tree. but we can't really see any of the features of the tree to be able to sort of to be able to determine, or perhaps that was a picture of a bird in a tree. I'm not too sure, but in terms of a tree, we would want that picture to show the overall form, but we'd also want some close-ups of the bark and the leaves, at least to be able to be able to verify that record. So that is all on verifying. So hopefully that this will help you. Hopefully this gives you the confidence that you don't need to be an amazing photographer, but just helps you to understand the things that you are trying to illustrate through your pictures. Just as I say, sufficient for an expert in that species to look at your pictures, any comments that you've made, any sort of notes, and to be able to say, yes, that is the species, or actually I can't quite tell because I need to see this too. Don't be put off if you don't get feedback, because as I mentioned before, verifiers are volunteers, and they do some of them have an overwhelming workload, so they just physically have to prioritize, and of course leaving feedback for each record may mean that some records don't get verified. So as I say, don't be put off by that. I always work from the basis that a verifier is giving their time, just the same as we're giving our time to create the records. They're giving their time to verify them. So they obviously do care about the accuracy of the records and the records in the same way, but just they're just a different part in the chain. So as I said before, just give it a go. If you're very new to recording, perhaps join the iNaturalist project for CAG Oxfordshire, which is specifically designed to help you with your recording. And just to mention that, so we talk a lot in these talks about how once the record is in iRecord and it's verified, it will flow through to TVERC. If you are recording in a different record centres area, just check, because all the record centres are different. So that's what TVERC do, and this is obviously what we're sort of talking. The audience is aimed at TVERC residents, as it were. But if you are in a different area, or if you go somewhere different, just know that it may be different in different areas. You may need to do different things to get the records where they need to go. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this helps, and happy observing.